Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese says that he will push for tighter gun laws after the mass shooting on Bondi Beach. Police say that a father and a son opened fire on a Jewish religious celebration, killing at least 15 people and wounding dozens more. Police shot dead the father. His son is hospitalized in critical condition.
Two gunmen opened fire from a pedestrian bridge next to Bondi Beach. Several eyewitnesses captured the terrifying moment on their phones. Hundreds flee in panic or try to hide, while the assailants, seemingly unchallenged for several minutes, continue their attacks until a member of the public appears to tackle and disarm one of the suspects, who had come down from the bridge. The bystander points the weapon, but doesn't shoot. Moments later, more eyewitness footage captures the man returning to the bridge where the two gunmen resume shooting before being hit by return fire.
Well, I think one was injured and one was down cold. And then I just saw everyone just running, screaming towards my apartment block and just spreading off each way.
Everyone was just running and there were bullets and there were so many of them and we were really scared. We didn't know where they were coming from.
Police eventually reach the bridge and pin the suspects down. Authorities are treating the shooting as a terrorist incident.
This is a targeted attack on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah, which should be a day of joy, a celebration of faith. An act of evil anti-Semitism, terrorism, that has struck the heart of our nation.
Mass shootings are extremely rare in Australia. The country has one of the lowest gun-related death rates in the developed world. The last attack of this magnitude was almost 30 years ago.
Let's get more now from Hans-Jakob Schindler. He is a senior director of the Counter-Extremism Project. Thank you so much for your time. As we just heard from that report, mass shootings are rare in Australia, and the Prime Minister has proposed even tougher gun laws. Do you think that's the right approach?
Of course, this is the initial reaction that definitely needs to be done. There is, of course, some loopholes in every single regulation that you can have. For example, in Australia, you have very thorough checks to get a license, but then repeat checks are not mandatory. So that's something you can look at to adjust. But obviously, just looking at the gun laws is hopefully not going to be the only measure, because here you can see a very, very hard case, father and son radicalizing together potentially, the father having legal gun licenses, so they don't need connection to criminal networks to get the weapons that they use for their attacks. So it was really hard. From what we know right now, it seems it was really hard for the security services to pick up on anything unusual in this pair that would lead them to believe that there is going to be an attack perpetrated by those two.
Based on your experience with other terrorist attacks, what drives people to commit acts like these?
Look, I mean, nothing like this happens in a vacuum. There has to be some sort of radicalization process. Normal people just don't go out to kill other people. We have seen an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents in Australia. It's 5 times the annual average compared to prior October 7, 2023. There has to be a thorough investigations, not only on the offline activities of those two individuals, but also in the wider fight against anti-Semitism in Australia, where there had been some measures taken over the last 2 years, but for over a year now, both the Jewish community as well as the Israeli government have criticized the Australian government of not being strong enough in countering anti-Semitism. There was a slew of arson attacks against synagogues and Jewish institutions that definitely showed that, similar to what we've seen here in Germany or around Europe and in North America, a real uptick in the normalization of anti-Semitism and somewhat an uptick also in violent attacks with an anti-Semitic motive.
So then what would be your advice? What more should Australia be doing to address anti-Semitism? And what conclusions must authorities draw from this attack? And you can also perhaps broaden that out to be beyond Australia as well.
Look, I mean, it has to be understood that, as my organization argues, anti-Semitism is its own category of extremism. That would free up government resources and not treat this as some kind of a bridge narratives that you do as part of the investigation into other extremist terrorist phenomena, number one. Number two, the Australian government has announced a slew of new legal changes, but some of them have not been enacted yet. It is high time for the government of Australia to do so. Thirdly, we really do have to look, because social media does play a significant role in the radicalization, and social media was used by a whole batch of terrorist organizations to re-radicalize people in the last 2 years, using the conflict in the Middle East as an argument to radicalize people, on how we readjust the cooperation between the platforms and the security services, really legally remandating them to proactively cooperate with the authorities, not wait for the authorities to come to them. That's not something that in Australia or the EU at this point is mandatory.
Hans-Jakob Schindler, Senior Director of the Counter-Extremism Project. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And now journalist Bryan Seymour was at Bondi Beach, and I asked him to describe the mood and what's taking place there one day after the attack.
Yes, well, it's just 24 hours since those two gunmen opened fire, and thousands of Sydney-siders are streaming down to the pavilion here at Bondi Beach, the makeshift memorial behind me where thousands of wreaths of flowers have been laid. The Prime Minister's laid flowers here. Jewish community leaders have led members of the public in song and prayer. And there really is an air of shock and disbelief that this could happen. This is the worst terror attack on Australian soil ever, and the first mass shooting since 1996. And people are just walking around dazed, disbelieving. They have to come here and see it for themselves because it's such a rare event in Australia.
Police say that the gunmen were a father and a son. What are investigators focusing on at the moment?
Police are investigating any possible links to others involved in this crime. 6 years ago, they looked at the son for his association with a group that was foiled in a terror plot. But they say there was no inkling that these two were planning this attack. They will be investigating whether others were involved in the coming days and weeks.
What more can you tell us about the bystander who tackled and disarmed one of the shooters? We understand that he's been hospitalized. How is he doing?
That's the one bright moment. Yeah, that's the one bright moment in an otherwise terrible day. Ahmed Al-Ahmed, a fruit and vegetable shop owner from Sydney's west, was walking past, saw the gunman, jumped on him, disarmed him, and then dropped the gun so the police wouldn't mistake him for one of the shooters. His family say that he's a hero. He was shot multiple times, 4 times, with bullets in both shoulders. Apparently, he is being taken, having hospital care. He's being well taken care of and is expected to make a full recovery. He's being hailed as the hero of this terrible tragedy.
What do you see happening now in the coming days?
Yeah, well, the Joint Counter-Terrorism Task Force has set up Strike Force Bellin because police seized a number of firearms here at the scene. They seized more material and electronic equipment at the home of the men, the father and son, out of Bonnyrigg, 40 metres west of Sydney. They also discovered 2 improvised explosive devices in the car here. And then this morning, police say they discovered another IED in another car. So we're anxious to find out whether others were involved, what sort of planning was involved, how these 2 became radicalised. We expect to get some answers in the next few days. The son is in a critical condition. It's expected he may pull through, and police will be hoping to gain as much information as they can from him.
Journalist Bryan Seymour at Bondi Beach for us. Thank you so much.